Okay, what's the lean agile leadership competency within SAFe? It's probably a good idea to have a quick look at all the core competencies. We're not going to walk through them, but to, if you like, to frame or position lean agile leadership in relation to the other competencies that exist within SAFe. So lean agile leadership is a foundational competency. Everything starts and ends with leadership. And it is fundamentally the role of leadership to act on the system of work and continually and relentlessly improve it. So the question is, how would you do it as leaders? The thing that we need as leaders for leadership to realize is that, so this is the article on Scaled Agile Framework that people can read in their own time. But fundamentally what we're saying as leadership, the role of leadership is A, you have to have humility to say that this is a new way of behaving, thinking and acting, which I don't know. And in order to be able to fulfill your role, you've got to gain knowledge. So yes, there is a bit of, you have to gain knowledge. And gaining knowledge is not just about attending a training course or reading a book. That is the start. But you have to gain knowledge by understanding a theory, practicing, ideally guided by a coach, and also having the people that are affected by your behavior to hold you accountable and say, well, you said I am going to behave aligned with this lean and agile leadership principles, values. Are you doing it? And typically the moment that you know whether you are or you aren't doing it is when things go wrong. When things are going smooth, that's fine. It's very good to behave aligned with those values. But when something goes wrong, do you revert back to type? Do you start thinking, oh, who is to blame? I want to understand who made that decision? Who did that? Or are you saying, what is wrong with a system that ultimately I am responsible for, and I need to act on that system and identify the problem with that system and change it so that these things do not happen again? And what needs to happen depends on the context. It could be anything. It could be you haven't trained people. It could be that people are not aware of some of the policies that they should be following. So they don't know that. And so the first thing to do is you always look in the mirror when something goes wrong, and when there is celebrations to be done, you look outside the window of your office and say, yeah, who do I need to share that with the people in the team and say, thank you very much. So that's one of the things that you need to do. And then you will also see on the screen here that some of the responsibilities of the leader, once they've gained knowledge, understood these principles and values, and they've got a guide to help them along the journey, is about organizing and reorganizing around value. What does that mean? It means that we need to understand what are the value streams within which your organization is earning its money, if you like. What are the customer journey? What do the customers come to you? And what are the steps they need to go through in order to get the solutions, which means products and services that you're delivering? And then you need to act on that value stream. Are we organized as an organization, and the teams within our organizations, are we organized, aligned with the customer journey, and are we aligned on serving the customer? Or are we functionally aligned and we just passing the ball from one function to the other, and we see our job as long as I fulfill my functional role, then it's somebody else's problem? But that's a leadership problem. It's not individual functions. So you need to be taking that responsibility seriously and keep acting on that, and relentlessly, continually acting on that value stream and saying, are we organized the way we should be? So we've spoken before, one of the key ways that you can do that is through the value stream and Agile Release Train Identification Workshop that enables you to understand how are you organized right now, and is that optimal? So that's one of the things to do. Identify and reduce long queues and excessive work in progress. So that's a change in behavior. So are you pushing work into the system without really understanding what the delivery capability of the system of work is? And system of work could be your whole organization, could be a division or part of the organization that is doing the work. So if you keep pushing work, irrespective of what the delivery capability is and what's on the plate for the people, then you are not working aligned with those principles and mindset. So you're pushing more work, you're increasing the number of pieces of work that are in flight, you're creating stress on the system, and the people that are working within that system are going to get overburdened. They're going to be more stressed, they're more likely to make mistakes, and the quality will suffer. So that's a behavior change. So are you changing your thinking from, well, the sooner we start, the sooner we finish, and the more we start, the more we finish, to what is the delivery capability of my organization? What is this piece of work that's come in? Does it trump everything else that is in flight right now? Maybe it does, in which case that's okay. So you have to decide, what am I going to take off the plate for this to go in? So it's not about push yet another piece of work in to say, okay, we now know this is more valuable, and therefore we're okay to stop that piece of work and start this piece of work. Of course, there's a cost to stopping and starting new work, but that's the conversation and the dialogue that will take place between you and the people working within the system, within the value stream, within the Agile release trains, to both gain information from you and for you to gain information from them, because they are the closest to the work. They have up-to-date knowledge and they can inform you in your decision making, so you don't make decisions unilaterally. So those are all about the kind of behaviors and actions that you need to exhibit. So it's not about just the words. The words are easy and simple. They're important, but they're not enough, if you like. They are not sufficient. So you need to act aligned with the words as well. Just continuously reducing bottlenecks, and that's basically, it's all about, so these bullets that you can see in here is all about understanding, gaining knowledge about your system of work, the system of work that ultimately you're responsible for designing. So performance of a system, organization, team of teams, is a function of how that system is designed and managed. And as leaders and executives, you are ultimately responsible for the design and the management of that system. This responsibility is something that you cannot delegate to somebody else. It's yours. You must own it, and you need to act on it. So that's the other part that I want to sort of focus on here. Is, we've sort of mentioned about the mindset, the principles, and it's all about gaining knowledge, practicing those, and having a guide to help you make sure, hold that mirror in front of you to say, yes, you are following and acting aligned with the principles and the values and not misaligned. Leading by example, well, that's your role. That's the only way to lead. We can create mandates, we can send emails, we can do videos, but that's not going to be the thing that lands. People will hear your words, but they will watch your actions. So when you're leading by example, and that's the crucial role of leaders within SAFE. So it's not about sponsoring change. It's not about signing the check. It's not about saying, yes, I am up for this change. No, it needs to be led through example. So gain knowledge and get on with it, and show through your behaviors and actions that you've actually embodied the values and the principles, and you're acting on it. And you've got that humility to say, this is new for me as well. I will make mistakes. I need you to let me know when I'm making mistakes, which brings us to the other part of the learning and changing in a safe environment, which is all about, when we make mistakes, we learn from it, and we don't hide our mistakes. We surface those, we share them as leaders and also individuals within the system. Why do we do that? Well, if we hide the mistakes that we make, we will never learn. And if as individual we learn, but we hide it from others, nobody else will learn from our mistakes. So we keep repeating the same mistake. So that's one of the good things that we need to do. If mistakes are made, we learn from them, we share them. We have a growth mindset, meaning that we are always looking. It's not about this is what I've always done. It's about there could be another way and I need to gain and learn it. One of the things that sometimes happens, well, actually most of the time happens with the most senior leaders and executives, is that they become creatures of habits that they've got, and they become a bit superstitious. They believe that they got to where they got because of how they behaved so far. So they become like, oh, I am an impatient person. So if I interrupt you, that's how I am. And that's how I got to here. I mean, they obviously don't say, this is how I got here. That's the way that they believe that that's what's got them there. But you need to sort of, if you like, stop, reflect, and say, yes, that's what got me here, may not be enough to get me further and also to help me move the organization further, especially with all the disruption and change that is happening in the age of digital. We need to be acting more on the system and also be getting more comfortable with navigating uncertainty, learning from experimentation, learning from the people who are doing the work, and also creating a decentralized decision-making, meaning that decisions cannot be made by a person or a small group because, well, they can be made, but when you work in that kind of environment and the world outside is moving fast, your decision-making delay will cost you. You will lose customer, you will lose opportunities. So you need to have a decentralized decision-making to say, when the decision that needs to be made, the knowledge that we need in order to make that decision is closest to the people that are doing the work, that's where the decision needs to be made, rather than coming back to the center and back again. So you need to sort of act in that, embody that, and also help the people within your organization if they have never made decisions, or they made decisions in the past, and then when they got it wrong, there were sort of penalties, like who made that decision? Why was it made that way? You now need to act differently, and you need to help them and teach them how to make decisions. And this, you cannot judge the decisions necessarily by the results of the decision. You need to judge the decisions on the basis that they were made. If the basis of decision-making is sound, then the result is something that will happen after effect, because we make decisions with incomplete information. If we have all the facts and information, there's no decision to be made. Route is clear. So you need to be comfortable with that. And also you need to be able to coach and guide your team about what are the bases. In other words, what are the things you would check for if you were making that decision? Of course, your team will also share with you what are the things they check for in order to make that decision. And that's how you will coach and guide your organization and embody that decentralized decision-making. And also relentless learning. So learning never stops. So you need to show that through your actions, through learning, through growing others, through coaching others, and continually looking for better ways of working. Being authentic is the only way that you can lead. You cannot copy somebody else's leadership style and pretend to be somebody you're not. So you need to be authentic, and you need to lead by example. So that, if you like, gives you a good overview of what leading by example, or the principle that we have, the core competency that we have in safe, lean, and agile leadership core competency.